The assignment inside be do have. There is a pattern God placed in Scripture that is so plain, so direct, and so visible that it almost goes unnoticed. Yet it is the foundation of how heaven creates, how God operates, and how every believer is meant to live. In the earlier teaching, we explored the pattern of be, do, have. And while that truth is powerful, today we are going deeper, because inside that pattern is the actual assignment God spoke over mankind in the very beginning. It has been written in front of us the whole time, but most never see what God really commanded. Genesis reveals that God does not attempt, He does not wish, He does not hope. Everything God creates, He succeeds in. He sees it, He speaks it, He structures it, and He calls it good. That is the divine order of creation, and today we are going to uncover how that same pattern is woven directly into your identity and your purpose. What God spoke in Genesis was not symbolic. It was your original mandate, your blueprint, your operating system. This study will open your eyes to what God actually meant when He said, "Be fruitful, multiply, replenish, subdue, and have dominion." It will show you the divine assignment hidden inside be, do, have, and why your life, your business, your leadership, and your spiritual authority rise or fall depending on whether you align with these commands. Father, thank you for your word. Thank you for truth that deepens every time we return to it. Thank you for revealing what has always been there and for opening our understanding so we can walk in the identity and assignment you designed from the beginning. Give us clarity, wisdom, and the courage to align our lives with your divine pattern. In the name of Yeshua, Jesus Christ, amen. By the end of this study, you will understand the deeper meaning of be, do, have. You will see how God embedded multiply, subdue, replenish, and dominion as the action commands inside the pattern. You will know why identity leads to fruitfulness, why fruitfulness leads to expansion, why expansion requires structure, and why structure produces dominion. And you will understand how this applies not only to creation, but to leadership, business, family, purpose, and every part of your life. The world teaches you to live backwards. It teaches you to have so you can do and hope that one day you might be. But God starts with be. God begins with identity. God begins with design. And inside that identity, He places commands, not suggestions, for how your life is meant to operate. Today we bring those commands into the light. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." Before man existed, God saw him. God conceived purpose before He formed flesh. God envisioned identity before He shaped dust. Nothing in creation begins with the physical. Everything begins in the unseen. God did not speak man out of the ground like the animals. He did not say, "Let the earth bring forth man." He said, "Let us make man." Man is the only part of creation God personally created in His image. Everything else came from its environment. Man came from God. Origin determines authority, which is why dominion is spoken before man takes his first breath. This is the C. Say, structure, success, pattern of heaven. God sees, God says, God forms, God finishes. Mankind inherits this pattern because mankind comes from God, not the environment. Dominion is not an afterthought. It is the identity baked into the design. So God created man in His own image. In the image of God created He him. Male and female created He them. Here the intention becomes reality. What God envisioned becomes what God built. God's image is not a metaphor. It means likeness in nature, character, intelligence, creativity, and authority. This reminds us that Elohim, God and his heavenly host, share a form, a structure, and an appearance. Humanity was created to reflect divine nature and carry divine assignment. You are not random. You are not accidental. You are not shaped by the world around you. You are shaped by the God within you. This matters because your assignment only makes sense when you understand your origin. The created are shaped by their environment. The image bearer shapes the environment. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion. Here is the assignment. Here is the operating system. Here is the command structure hidden inside be, do, have. Before anything else, God blessed them, empowerment before effort. And then he gave 5 commands that define how life is meant to operate. Be fruitful, identity producing good. Multiply, exponential increase. Replenish, restoration and refilling. Subdue, order, structure, and alignment. Have dominion, authority resulting from obedience to the first 4. These are not random words. They are sequential. Fruitfulness flows from being. Multiplication flows from fruitfulness. Replenishing flows from multiplication. Subduing flows from replenishing. Dominion flows from all of them. This is the divine progression of purpose. Be fruitful, multiply, replenish, subdue, dominion, have. None of these can be skipped, none can be reversed. This is why the earlier teaching on be, do, have was true but incomplete, because God himself defines what do means. Do is multiply and subdue. Have is dominion. And inside that dominion is everything God intended for mankind to walk in. This is your inheritance. This is your design. This is the blueprint of heaven for your life. Be fruitful and multiply. Multiply means far more than adding to what already exists. The Hebrew word is rabah, Strong's H7235. It means to enlarge, to increase abundantly, to expand beyond the original measure. This is not small. This is not gradual. This is not linear. Multiply is God's command for exponential growth. When God blesses something, it is supposed to expand. Multiply does not happen by effort alone. Multiply is the natural result of fruitfulness. A healthy tree multiplies. A healthy mind multiplies ideas. A healthy leader multiplies people. A healthy business multiplies opportunity. You cannot multiply from emptiness. You only multiply from strength. This is why God said, Be fruitful, before he said, multiply. The internal state must match the external assignment. Look at the way God designed nature. A tree does not strain to multiply. A branch does not clench and force fruit into existence. A tree that produces 1,000 apples does not work harder than a tree that produces 2. The difference is not effort. It is health, alignment, and the strength of what is rooted beneath the surface. God built multiplication into creation so you could understand He built it into you. When you are rooted in identity, fruitfulness flows without struggle, and multiplication becomes the natural expression of who you are, not a burden you attempt to carry by force. And replenish the earth. Replenish is a powerful word. It means to fill, to refill, to restore what was emptied, and to bring fullness where there was lack. This command is only given when God establishes or reestablishes purpose. Replenish is the divine instruction to restore what has been diminished. There are seasons in life where something must be filled again. Hope, strength, clarity, purpose, structure, even joy. Replenish is a command for people who will encounter loss in a broken world. It means do not stay empty. Fill the void. Restore what has been damaged. Rebuild what has been shaken. God never leaves you with subtraction. His command is always to refill, rebuild, and restart with purpose. And subdue it. Subdue comes from the Hebrew kabash, Strong's H3533. It means to bring into order, to align, to structure, to discipline, to govern with intention. Subdue is not oppression, it is organization. It is the divine ability to shape an environment so it works according to purpose. Multiply without subdue produces chaos. Growth without structure collapses. Opportunity without order overwhelms. Increase without management destroys the very thing God blessed you with. Subdue is the command that ensures what God grows can be sustained. Subdue is systems. Subdue is boundaries. Subdue is discipline. Subdue is alignment. Subdue is leadership in action. Every successful business, ministry, family, and life requires subdue, not domination over people, but mastery over assignment. And have dominion. Dominion comes from the Hebrew rada, Strong's H7287. It means to rule with delegated authority, to steward with wisdom, to oversee with responsibility, and to govern with strength and righteousness. Dominion is the result of walking in God's order. Dominion is not domination. Dominion is not pride. Dominion is not control. Dominion is the visible expression of alignment, identity, fruitfulness, increase, restoration, and order working together under God's blessing. Dominion is the final stage of the creative pattern. God sees, God speaks, God structures, God succeeds, and through these steps, He teaches you how to function as His image bearer. Dominion is what happens when you align your being with God's nature and your doing with God's assignment. You do not chase dominion. You become a person who carries it. Be fruitful, multiply, replenish, subdue, dominion, have. This is the true meaning inside be, do, have. The do is multiply and subdue. The have is dominion. And when dominion is established, everything God intended begins to flow through your life. Jesus confirms the same divine pattern. When Yeshua stepped into His ministry, He didn't operate from a different system than the one God established in Genesis. He walked out the same divine order that was spoken over mankind in the beginning. His life, His words, His miracles, and His leadership all followed the pattern of identity, fruitfulness, multiplication, order, and dominion. Yeshua taught that fruit is the evidence of identity. A tree does not struggle to produce what it is. It simply reveals what it's rooted in. This is the same truth God spoke in Genesis. Be precedes do, and do produces have. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Fruit is not the result of effort. Fruit is the result of nature. This is why Yeshua always began with being, abide, believe, become. When the identity is aligned, the fruit will follow, and the multiplication will come. Herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit. Much fruit is the visible sign of multiply. It is not forced. It is not manufactured. It is not the result of pushing harder. It is the natural expression of a life aligned with God's design. Yeshua also taught that increase requires structure. You cannot expand without order. You cannot carry more without the discipline to sustain it. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles. This is subdue. This is the principle of managing, arranging, and structuring what God gives you so that it does not burst under pressure. Without subdue, growth collapses. But with subdue, increase becomes sustainable. Yeshua brought order everywhere He went. When darkness rose, He spoke peace. When sickness confronted Him, He commanded healing. When demons screamed, He sent them out with a word. He did not react to the environment. He subdued it. He brought everything into alignment with the will of his Father, for he taught them as one having authority. Authority is the evidence of dominion. Dominion is not noise. Dominion is not force. Dominion is the natural result of walking in the pattern God established: identity, fruitfulness, multiplication, restoration, and order. Every miracle Yeshua performed was dominion expressed, heaven's authority manifested through alignment with God's original blueprint for mankind. He lived the command given in Genesis and demonstrated what it looks like when a human life operates exactly as God intended: fruitful, multiplying, restoring, ordering, and ruling under God's blessing. This is the same pattern spoken in the beginning. It did not fade with time. It did not change with covenant. It has always been the way God designed his image bearers to operate. Life and business application. The commands God spoke in Genesis were not religious phrases. They were the blueprint for how your life, your work, and your purpose are meant to operate. When you understand this pattern, everything becomes clearer: your decisions, your leadership, your business, your relationships, and your expectations. God was not giving Adam poetry, he was giving him process. Be fruitful means identity drives results. Who you are becomes what you produce. If your inner world is aligned with God, your outer world begins to reflect it. Fruitfulness is the evidence of health, clarity, and purpose. In business, this means your culture, your leadership, and your systems all reflect the heart behind them. A healthy leader produces healthy results. Multiply means increase is not accidental, it is expected. God built expansion into the human assignment. Just as a tree multiplies without strain, your life and work increase when you operate from identity and alignment. Multiplication is not hustle, it is overflow. When you are rooted in purpose, your influence, opportunities, and impact expand naturally. Replenish means restoration is part of the rhythm. There will be seasons where something drains, breaks, or empties. God's command is not to collapse, but to refill. Replenish what was lost, rebuild what was shaken, restore what was weakened. Every business, every leader, and every believer must learn the rhythm of restoration. You cannot multiply from depletion. You replenish so you can rise again. Subdue means structure must match assignment. Increase without order becomes chaos. Growth without systems collapses. God commands you to bring discipline, alignment, and organization to everything you manage. Subdue is the leadership side of multiplication. It protects the blessing, maintains the growth, and allows expansion to continue. This is where excellence becomes a form of worship. Dominion means carrying authority, not chasing control. When identity, growth, restoration, and order work together, dominion appears. This is influence. This is clarity. This is stability. This is the authority to lead with wisdom, to make decisions with confidence, and to operate with the peace God designed you to have. Dominion is not forcing outcomes. It is walking in the natural result of alignment with God's pattern. This is the life God designed for you. This is the pattern that governs creation. This is the structure that builds successful families, businesses, ministries, and personal lives. This is the assignment inside be-do-have. When you operate through this divine sequence, identity, fruitfulness, multiplication, restoration, order, and dominion, you begin to experience the life God intended from the beginning: empowered, purposeful, effective, and aligned with heaven's design. Principles for kingdom builders: identity before activity. Who you are determines what you produce. When your identity aligns with God's nature, fruitfulness becomes the natural outcome of your life. You do not force fruit, You reflect it. Every assignment begins with being, not striving. Order before overflow. God builds structure before increase. The command to subdue comes before dominion. Systems, discipline, and alignment prepare you to receive and manage the expansion God brings. Overflow is never random. It is the reward of order. Delegation is dominion. Dominion is not carrying everything yourself. It is stewarding what God gives by placing the right people in the right roles with the right structure. Dominion means you oversee, not overwork. God designed you to govern, not to grind. Excellence is evangelism. When your work reflects God's nature, people see Him through you. Excellence is not perfection, it is intentionality. It is doing everything in a way that honors the God who created you. Excellence attracts opportunity, influence, and trust. It becomes a testimony. Rest is rhythm. God completed His work and rested, not because He was tired, but because He was finished. Rest is part of creation. It is the place where you reset, recover, and realign. Rest is not escape, it is empowerment. Rest keeps you fruitful. Rest keeps you multiplying. Rest keeps you in dominion. This entire pattern, identity, fruitfulness, multiplication, restoration, order, and dominion, is the assignment inside be, do, have. It is not a slogan. It is not a principle borrowed from self-help. It is the first command God ever spoke to mankind, and it reveals the nature of how He designed you to function. You were created in His image. You were formed with His intention. You were blessed with His assignment. You were commissioned with His authority, and you were called to reflect His pattern in everything you touch. You were created to be fruitful. You were designed to multiply. You were empowered to replenish. You were commanded to subdue. You were destined to walk in dominion. This is the blueprint. This is the order. This is the rhythm of heaven applied to the life of God's children. Stay fruitful, multiply, walk in dominion, for this is God's original blueprint for living. What you learned in this study is not a suggestion, not a theory, and not an inspirational idea. It is a principle, a law, a fact woven into the foundation of creation. Be, do, have is the structure God built into everything He made. And inside that structure, He placed your assignment to be fruitful, to multiply, to replenish, to subdue, and to walk in dominion. Everything God creates succeeds because He follows His own pattern. He sees it, He speaks it, He structures it, and He completes it. When you align your life with that same pattern, you step into the identity and authority He designed for you from the beginning. This isn't opinion. This isn't motivational talk. This is the operational truth of heaven. Remember this. Be always comes before do, and do always leads to have. And the commands God gave, multiply, replenish, subdue, and dominion, are not optional. They are the blueprint of how an image bearer functions. When you honor this principle, your life aligns with the order, power, and increase of God Himself. Like, subscribe, and share this message with someone who needs truth today. And stay ready, because in the next study we will go even deeper into the patterns God established from the beginning and how they shape your purpose, your leadership, and your destiny. In the name of Yeshua, Jesus Christ, amen.